Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to be here today, and I'm very impressed to see such a broad participation, also a very broad international participation here today. I've been here around today also from this morning to listen and learn and find out how it's going with the project and how the field is developing. I come from Innovation Fund Denmark, and we are the biggest investor in this project, and we invested back in 2011. And when I say investment, you may think that we're sort of demanding interest and equity. We are not capital hungry or profit hungry investors, but we are still quite demanding investors. So when we see that there is a true benefit for society, for industry, and for science, we're happy. So these are the sort of the criteria of what we want to get out of our investments. And I will talk a little bit about this particular investment, of course, but also our investments in the energy sector at large. And just let me talk a little bit about Innovation Fund Denmark and try to make it short. But I know at least many of the Danes here, you're interested because it's a relatively new construction, and you know that we have changed quite a lot the last years. So it was a different funding mechanism, investment scheme back in 2011. We took over the project in 2014. And as you can see here on the slides here, there were three sort of funds or councils that were merged back in 2014 to create one single fund. And that was the start, and we have made a lot of changes. I'm talking about investment, not grants. And why I'm talking about investments is because we're very active in the projects, and we are very focused on the value creation of the projects. We have taken the opportunity to make it simpler. You know how complicated it can be to apply for money. So we have made three simple investment schemes and try to simplify the criteria. And an important change has also been that the foundation now, the fund now, is composed with expertise in-house. So we have a full energy team. We have, of course, external peers and so on, but we have an internal team to look at our investments. We are much in dialogue with the different projects, and we follow them closely. So what we're doing is basically we cover the whole value chain, from relatively easy early research and the whole way until implementation. So you shouldn't stop a project in Innovation Fund Denmark but just because you've reached a milestone somewhere. So we can follow the project, and we can start project anywhere in the value chain. Of course, we build on top-notch research. That is the same as before. We support small, medium and large businesses to collaborate with universities. So this that we've been talking about, how important it is to bring the knowledge and the value inside the university system out to the society is what we're doing. Of course, the projects here are very ambitious. Many of them are at a very early stage, and they are risky. No private investors would normally go into such projects. And we are there to make the projects, de-risking the projects, to make them attractive for the next investors. So for that, we need a clear value proposition. I talked about three investment schemes. The first one is in the individual. The talents, the industrial PhDs, not all PhDs are going to be within the university systems. Some of the PhDs, in our opinion, should go out and look into the real world. Sorry if I It's not my intention to offend anyone. And we also think that the industrial postdoc is a very good next step for all the PhDs that are educated in this country. And it's an attractive thing for the small businesses who cannot support the whole PhD program. The entrepreneurial pilot, typically young graduate students who are not going to go into long research career, but they have brilliant ideas. This is a pretty cool investment scheme, and we see that half of the entrepreneurs that we have launched, they survived the first year and the second year, and many of them they make money. They're on the market, and many with success. InnoBooster is directed directly towards the smaller businesses. It's also important for universities to think about that, because these small businesses, they need the competences from the universities. Could be skilled people, could be know-how that they want to implement in small businesses. So it's really going directly to the small businesses, and they work with the universities and so on. And then we have the grant solutions. And grant solutions, these are the big partnerships. Typically private, public partnerships, universities, businesses, and big consortia. And as you can see here, they're tiny money for the talent, the entrepreneurs. They get starving salary just so they can concentrate their ideas. The big projects we invest up to, well, the largest investment we have is 80 million kroners in 2015. This is how we want to see the landscape, I personally don't really like this basic applied research. I think it's research at different levels. We take the project from quite fundamental, not basic research, but on a quite early stage, and we can follow them all the way through. Important to say is that our starting point is in research. So most of our portfolio is skewed towards the left, and they're typically very research heavy. But we also have projects that are very close to the market, and especially with the small businesses. These are some of the assessment criteria, and probably you know the first one, and that's the same as before. We need to have the high quality in research and science. What is probably new is that we put much more emphasis on the value creation. So when we look at our projects, the value creation. And if it's not value creation, maybe it's excellent research. We think that is a key factor for us to invest. Also the last one, the efficiency and implementation. You know how important good project management and governance is. To have the right partners, to have the right persons, and also to have the economic efficiency. And we like very, very much when private companies also contribute with their co-financing in the projects. So where is the money going? In practical terms, the universities, they cannot self-finance a lot, so most of our money, most of the money goes for the universities. Most of the projects, they are in research or development phase and a little bit in the implementation. Even though we had more than 1 billion kroners last year, the success rate was 13%. So we had 8 billion kroners of applications last year. So you can see there's a quite strong demand for this type of investments. And pretty much we cover the whole country. And when I talk here about Denmark, and I know there are a lot of foreigners here, we invest also in foreign partners taking part here, universities and businesses, and we really like to see that there's a strong international component in the projects. In energy, we have in our portfolio 100 active projects of the value of more than 2 billion Danish kroners. So it's pretty big. It's the biggest part of our portfolio. It's within energy. And when we looked at the new strategy, we thought we're an active investor and we need to know where to invest, where to get the best return. So we gathered a lot of information and we talked to a lot of the players and we made this CMAP in 2015, and we launched the investment strategy in energy. You can find it on our webpage. It's in Danish and it's in English, and I hope that you will recognize a lot of the things that you're doing fitting pretty well into this investment strategy. As an active investor in energy, these are just a few of the highlights of the investment strategy. We look for efficient and flexible use of energy. We are very much up to the agenda of fossil fuel society, and so renewable energy technologies for storage and system integrations, those are a key in our strategy. We also support technologies, energy technologies, supporting technology, ICT, effect electronic and materials. And as you can see here, integration of electricity, gas and heating and so on is an important area in our strategy. So, for the fourth generation of district heating, we've heard about this morning. Denmark, but the whole European Union has the target of being fossil free in 2050. The targets are a little bit unclear, a lot of political discussions, but a very significant reduction. In Denmark, it's about 50% of the which is the district heating, and when we think about the integration and renewable energy, this is a large potential for reduction of carbon emission. This project is optimizing, reorganizing, and developing new type of district heating technology. It's not a new technology itself and not a new idea, but this is the fourth generation, and you heard a lot about this today. And I think that what we can do and what is relevant for Denmark is probably to be a showroom for the rest of the world, and to provide solutions, expert of technologies and so on. So I think we have a unique opportunity, and I think therefore that this is not something we do only for the Danish energy system, but for the global energy system. Just a few key figures. This is one of the long projects, and typically energy projects, they are long-term. So it was started in 2011, and Innovation Fund Denmark contributed with invested 27 million kroner, and the budget here is 64 million kroner. So it's a pretty large project, and I think there have been other financial sources coming along the time. We see a lot of different partners, a lot of different universities working together. This is something that we like. We do not like when we see that universities that should work together and they should work together also to have the critical mass, they are sort of competing, and in a small country we have to join forces. That is extremely important. And Denmark is a small country, and it's impossible to imagine that we can find all the best competence within the borders of such a small country. And I think one of the really good example here is the involvement of the industry and the end users from the very, very beginning, small and large industries. So I'm not going to repeat a lot about this. You know much more about me, but these are some of the results and the focus in 2011. It was very much in 2011 focused on establishing the excellent research education, the publications and so on, of course targeting a societal challenge. And the end users, the users were also involved. The project has evolved quite a lot, and we heard this morning that the EU at the time in 2011, it was not even on the agenda, and no references. It was mentioned, but what's really in the periphery of the EU agenda. Since 2014-15, this changed, and it's now an important topic. And I think that you have contributed a lot to putting this on the European agenda. So I think you need credit for that. But I don't think that it's this is just a step forward, and we have a lot to achieve. So the next steps. What we have so far, we have heat maps, solar atlases, development of energy systems analysis tools, demonstration projects, testing in daily operation, and so on, and also calculations to see how is the attractiveness for investments. There have been a lot of publications, and I think that publications are important, and events like these are important to spread the message. And that has been very good throughout the project, and with the effect that it has actually influenced European policymakers. Focus going forward, and from an investor's perspective, we also, I think that we need, once we have sort of the framework and beyond the agenda, we also have to think about the societal readiness. A lot with technologies, we know that if the society is not ready for it, you can be pretty rational about the technology and the fantastic opportunities, but you also need to have people with you. In the end, the people are electing the politicians, and so you have to target both of them. I think this is something that will take time. There are a lot of barriers, and I heard about some of the barriers here today, and I can imagine there are other barriers that I haven't really heard about. I think there are regulatory hurdles and incentives in different countries, and I think a lot about the heavy investments, and also the investments that have been made in the current infrastructure and the gas pipes and all that, the depreciations of billions of euros. Somehow we are competing with those investments over decades. And that, I think, there's a financial barrier, which is not just a simple business case, if this makes sense. We have to think about that. So that is it's a battle, as I see it. These solutions, they need to be cost effective. And I heard some sessions here today that you're addressing this. But I think this needs to be refined and even further and adopted to different countries. So, because Innovation Fund Denmark, well, I said we come with a large investment. Much more is needed in the future. And this is to get it started. This is to make it attractive. What we need to get now is to get on board the heavy investors in different countries, and that's tough. And in the energy investments today, it is a tough market. So this is also one of the challenges. I think there are great, maybe lower hanging fruits from a Danish perspective. That many of these technologies, maybe already the technologies existing, being part of it, can already be exported, taking advantage of these results. And maybe we can use Denmark as a showroom with the companies also that we have. And I've heard about how complex and these systems are, but as you know, problems can be complicated, but solutions cannot. So that's the task that we have to solve. Thank you, and best wishes for developing and implementing these solutions in the future. Thank you for your attention, and hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.